Okay, we're live. And goodness, we have a 1 minute before showtime. I'm so excited. And this is Willie Jones, and I'm president of Women for Progress, and you've tuned in to another edition of the Working Woman Report. Thank you so much for tuning in today and having lunch with us for our conversation today. And I'm so excited to have our guest with us today, and I'll share a little bit of information with you about her in just a moment. But our topic today is around the status of housing in the city of Jackson, and we're going to be talking about some alternatives to housing for various groups of individuals, and the possibilities are just wonderful. And so we'll get involved in that in just a minute. But I want to share just a little bit of information that we are so excited about. Not only I'm excited about it, but people who look like me and are excited about it. And that is the election, the special election that happened last night for City of Jackson Council Ward 2. Some outstanding individuals threw their hat in the ring for this particular race, for them to be able to represent the citizens of Ward 2, but really to represent all of us, because when the council comes together and makes those decisions impact all of us. Even though this particular representative for Ward 2 will specifically address the issues around and bring to the table the concerns of Ward 2, that representative impacts all of us within the city of Jackson. So we are, even though the voters in Ward 2 was the one who went to the polls to make this decision that impacts all of us. We're so grateful for them to come out, that they came out and did what they did, because Miss Angelique Lee stood out in that particular race, and she won the most votes. She did not get 50% of the vote, so there will be a runoff on December 8th. That's 20 days from now, 20 short days. The citizens and the voters of Ward 2 will go back to the polls to make their final decision on who will represent them for that particular area. But I want to share a little statistics that was shared with me this morning, and I think it's important, and it's exciting, both important and exciting, is that women make up 53.6% of the Jackson population. But currently, we have only one seat on the city council that belongs to a woman. So we need more women in public office. So we're excited about this possibility of having not only another woman on the council, but a black woman on the council. And that's going to be exciting, because that does not exist right now. So having a black woman on the council that speaks to not only the issues of women, but of families. And, when we empower women, we empower families, we empower communities, we empower our economy. So this is exciting news to have an opportunity to have this a historic moment. And I want to share with you that candidate who got the most votes last night. She had 1,209 votes. And her opponent, who she will be in the race with on December 8th, Mr. Lewis, had 950 of those votes. So we hats off to all of the candidates that were in the race last night. We appreciate your service. We appreciate your willingness to serve. But just a little information about Miss Lee. The candidate Angelique Lee is running for City Council Ward 2 in Jackson after the seat was vacated by Representative Melvin Priester. If she is successful, she'll be the only black woman serving on the council for the city of Jackson. Lee, a Jackson native and longtime advocate and leader for public education, is the daughter of longtime JPS educator, principal, and civil rights freedom rider Mary Harrison Lee, who led the charge for integration through the first in-state boycott of the Mississippi bus lines. And Jean Lee, a former educator and principal of Holy Coast Catholic School. Lee is a proud HBCU graduate, and she holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Early Childhood Education from Tougaloo College and a Master's of Arts degree and Political Science from Jackson State University. Lee has served as a public school teacher in Houston, Texas, and Harlem, New York, where she taught first, second, and ninth graders. She relocated home to work at Jackson State University as a deputy director for the Center for Bioinformatics and Computational Biology. While at JSU, she assisted with securing over $20 million for research in the area of STEM for pre-college, undergraduate, and graduate students, and oversaw summer and year-long intensive STEM programs for middle and high school students. Lee also worked for Tougaloo College as director. She also director of the Family Life Center, where she was director of all pre-college, after-school, and summer academic enrichment programs in collaboration with Jackson Public Schools and the Henry Young Detention Center. And we'll be sharing a little bit more of her bio as we go on, which I think is appropriate as her as being the leader in last night's race, and will be on the ballot again for December 8th. So we'll share a little bit more about that. But I love that idea of having a black woman on the council and another woman on the council. I think that's good news. I think that's good news for the city of Jackson. I think that's good news for the state of Mississippi. So we're very, very excited about that, and wish both candidates well on December 8th. And we'll wish them safety during this campaign process, and we'll continue to share information on that particular upcoming race for December 8th as we move forward. So stay tuned to Women for Progress. Go to our Facebook page, Women for Progress MS. Stay tuned to Women for Progress Radio. Tomorrow night will be our flagship program at 5:30. That's live on Women for Progress page and on all of our radio networks, which will be found at womenforprogressradio.com, womenforprogressradio.com. We'll continue to keep you updated on that particular race and what happens, and share information on it. But I just think that's exciting news and for us to have during this pandemic. And we thank the voters of Ward 2 for coming out. We ask you to come back out again on December 8th. I mean, those voters are working that voice this season, definitely. November 3rd election, and then they had yesterday's election, and then they're going to get an opportunity to give their voice again on December 8th. Isn't that wonderful? That's wonderful that we're able to stretch that vote and give our voice every single time. And we hope that they come back out again in big numbers to make sure that their voices are heard, and we hear from them also in this process. So thank you all so very much for that. Now let's get started in this conversation, because we have today Miss Ashley Kelly of the Kelly Factory. And Miss Ashley is experienced in environmental planning, economic and community development, public policy, and proposal writing. She is a PhD candidate in public policy administration. She holds a Master's of Arts in urban and regional planning and a Bachelor of Arts in political science, all from Jackson State University. And her husband together have the Kelly Factory. And one of their major rocks in that particular effort is building tiny homes, and we're going to talk about that. But their big thing is urban planning, and we're excited to have these young millennials in the city of Jackson who have chosen to, not only after getting all their education and experience and launching this project, has chosen to stay here in the city of Jackson and help empower our community. So welcome, Ashley, to the Working Woman Report.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for the time. Ashley, and give me your husband's name again.
Achille Kelly.
Kelly. Okay, Achille Kelly.
Achille. Yep.
Okay. So you and Achille have a wonderful 3-year-old now.
Alex.
So we're pat on the back for that. And I have to say, you and I met some years ago. When you did some work and connected with Women for Progress. I remember you being such a huge support. You brought so much information and research and energy to our organization. So we hope to get you back into doing some work with us. But it was a great experience. And I want to start by talking about that that particular collaboration, because when we met you and you were working for the city of Jackson at that particular time, and you had done quite a bit of giving them quite a bit of support with all the research that you had brought to the table and all of your vision. But I remember even at that time you had this huge vision to do wonderful things around urban planning and improving and uplifting the city of Jackson. So tell us, I'd like to start talking with women first about their career and work. What was the catalyst for you getting into this particular area of work? And are you where you always thought you would be right now?
No, I'm not. But not in a bad way. I think as you have experiences, things tend to shift and change and evolve. So the reason for me being interested in urban planning is I'm originally from New Orleans, and I'm originally from a neighborhood that was once a landfill. So they had the idea to offer affordable housing and home ownership to African Americans, but they did not clean the landfill properly. So that resulted in us being in court with the city of New Orleans, with the federal government, with the state, I think, and the contractors for over 20 years. And a lot of people who stayed in that area, so included townhomes, single-family homes, a community center. There was a school back there. It was a strip mall, and there was a home for older individual apartment homes. And a lot of people had health issues. So I wanted to go into planning because I just wanted to be a part of the process. I felt like we really didn't have a voice because we were in court for over 20 years dealing with this. And although there was a settlement, naturally the attorneys get half of that. We got a very small amount. And it's really not about that, because the health issues we experienced for generations, and there was men dying from breast cancer, and just everybody from that area has some form of health issue. Wow. So I just want to be a part of the process, educated on the process, and regarding environmental planning and policy. So that was the point of me going to school for not only political science, but for urban and regional planning with my master's, concentrating in environmental planning. So when I met you, I was in working in economic development. And based on my upbringing and what I've learned, I just feel like everybody should have access to the best neighborhood, which includes sidewalks, access to public transportation. You should have grocery stores, you should have parks, you should have amenities. So I just believe that should look like everybody should have that regardless of the section of town. So although I love Belhaven and I love Fondren, that should be the same way in South and West Jackson as well, and North Jackson as well. So that's kind of my goal to do through partnerships, through our own companies. So before, I really, really want to work my way up in government. I want to be a city manager at one time, but now I feel like sometimes you can get more accomplished from the outside. There's less red tape. It's a possibility to find access to creating funding mechanisms, partnership, and it doesn't change based on administration and leadership.
Yeah, and I want to say too to folks, because we have a lot of issues that we focus on even before pre-COVID, and I think housing becomes like that afterthought,
Right.
But housing in communities and the communities that we live in is probably one of the biggest things when we talk about quality of life issues, even right. around health, around success of our children. Everything evolves around the type of home that you live in, the environment that you live in, the community that you live in, access to things like the good produce, healthy places to eat, and all those particular types of things. All of that evolves around housing and the quality of those right. housing. And we do not spend enough time and energy and money and all of those other things in improving communities in that particular manner for all. I can right. remember when I was growing up, of course, I lived in the rural South, so it was very different. But for a lot of urban communities, what people wanted is great neighborhoods, great places right. to live. And even though I grew up in the rural South, we had wonderful neighbors in sprawling places that we can run and be happy and safe, and we had gardens and all those kind of things, and that contributed to the type of people we became. And so I think we got to step back and make sure that we spend the time, one, having the particular conversations and dialogue around that particular need, and making sure that we, our leadership and our council and everybody else kind of dive in to help support those efforts. So I'm excited on having this conversation today, because I think we're going to talk about a lot of things that need some spotlight on, and that's why we have you here to the table today. So let's talk a little bit about the research that you have been doing in the city of Jackson for so many years, and talk a little bit about the status of housing in the city of Jackson. Where are we? Are we way off the path? Are we headed in the right direction? What currently exists here in the city of Jackson, and where we are on a status standpoint as a whole?
Yeah, so I don't have supporting data, but just based on my experiences and some of my research and what I see, I think there is a need for new housing. Mm-hmm. There's a need to rehab housing. There's a need to offer different types of housing, affordable housing as well. So, and when I say affordable, that's usually defined as you're not spending more than 30% of your income on housing. So sometimes we get super excited at new developments or new apartments, downtown apartments, which is great, but we have to ensure that it's affordable to everybody in Jackson. And we need to make sure that we're targeting the different groups. You know, when I first arrived in Jackson, I went to Jackson State. At one time, all the college students were staying in the neighborhood, and we don't really see that exist anymore. So there's definitely a need for housing for college students, for young professionals, for families, because right now when people don't get what they want, they either leave the city or they leave the state in general. So there's definitely a need for more housing and just different types of housing in Jackson right now. And you know, you mentioned a little bit about us stepping back and looking at what we need to accomplish. I definitely think from my experience at the city and just my experience as an entrepreneur, I would like to see more groups kind of work together opposed to kind of putting the blame solely on the city. And we also need the state to step up as well, not only in support, but financially too. So this is something that it requires kind of like all hands on deck, the type of situation we're in.
Yeah, and I wanna talk about too the different groups that can benefit from this dialogue regarding options. And you mentioned, you know, you said new housing, rehab housing, affordable housing, and then different housing options. And that's what we're talking about on a large scale today. But I want to say, even on an affordable level, when I talk to women that are even just in single parent households, I mean, their average rental is around $900 to $1,000 a month, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And then
not only that, think about the deposit you have to make. Yeah, you usually have to pay for the month, or you have to pay $1,000. When we were looking for more space for our family after having our child, you know, before it used to be free or discounted or $250. It was $1,000.
Yeah. And then when you look at some of the houses that is being up for rent for that, they don't even, the quality of them, probably some of them need to be condemned. You're like, really? Yeah, you know, so there's some issues around even that. And then we even talk about seniors and then our elderly. And a lot of times when we use the word seniors and elderly, we think about those persons who may be bedridden or wheelchair bound. But I'm even talking about those individuals that's past 55 who are still in great shape and still happy, and they want to have a robust quality of life. Right. Well, we want robust quality of life for all of people. It doesn't matter if you're bedridden or you're wheelchair bound. I think everybody needs to be able to have a great quality of living wherever they are and whatever, because we all going to be, probably some of us in those situations at some point. So options, also want to look at options for those individuals, because when I go into a lot of the nursing facilities, I see healthy, robust senior citizens who should not be in nursing home facilities. They are living
Right.
there because they don't have another option. They don't have family members or community that can provide them that type of quality living beyond a nursing home care. But when we look at the money that's being spent in the nursing home, $67,000 a month on an individual in a nursing facility, who, if we could take that same $67,000 and put them in a community that has resources and a group of individuals that are willing to help really care and look out for those individuals, not only the quality of life will be better for those individuals, our communities would be better, and we save a lot of money, because when you think of $67,000 a month, I mean, if you had some of the housing that we're going to be talking about, you can do that very easily with half of that, or not, maybe a fourth of that, and so.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the interesting thing about seniors is they're kind of similar to young professionals. They want to stay in the urban environments where amenities too. They want entertainment too, because a lot of them are empty nesters anyway. Mm-hmm. So the seniors want the same type of environments as younger people.
Yeah, and those who are able to be able to walk to the store for themselves, or even if they're in their wheelchairs or in their wheeled scooters, to be able to scoot around the block and to be able to get things on their own, or provide, or if they have a communal space, be able to go in and out of those communal spaces that they'd be able to really provide the environment for. So these are the type of individuals we want to talk about. And even women like myself, I have a personal interest around what we want to move to is tiny homes. There's been a big tiny home push or revolution that have happened over the last couple of years. And I want to talk a little bit about, I want to share this is some information that I've been getting on a regular basis and keeping my eye on. Some of the reasons why tiny homes is now, people are downsizing and looking at this as an option, because these particular homes are environmental friendly. They provide simplicity, which a lot of individuals like myself, we're getting ready. We have now decided at the age that we are that we don't need what we thought we needed. We don't need 3-4 bedroom homes that we got to pay all of this insurance on and security on and upkeep on, because it seems like after our homes get to past 10 years, when one thing breaks, you fix it, and then there's another thing to be fixed, and then decrease maintenance. I mean, for us, as men and women of a certain age, that whole idea, like now that my husband is no longer with me, I don't want to have to now I got to call on all these folks to get them to fix certain things. And mobility. So there's a lot of different reasons. In multifunctional, there's low cost, there's so many different advantages to tiny homes. So Ashley, tell me why you and your husband, Akili, decide to focus on, one of the focuses for your projects is this idea of tiny homes. Tell us about that.
Well, first, I will say my husband was obsessed with the design aspect of it, being able to customize homes. You don't really see that often. And the other part of it is when we were done with grad school, and he was studying for his license, but I was working on my coursework in the PhD program. And when we first got married, we went to premarital counseling, and we took financial counseling. So, of course, they were like, well, based on this amount of debt, this is how long you're going to be in debt, and y'all going to be broke for like your first several years. So then when considering home ownership and your debt to income ratio, we were like, okay, this is going to be challenging. So between his love of the design aspect of tiny homes and it just being an affordable option, we thought tiny homes would be cool. We both were working in the planning department at that time, so we thought it would be something that maybe we can start on the side. And then there was an opportunity to participate in the Start Week in Jackson several years ago, and we pitched tiny homes. We won. And once we won first place, we went ahead and said, okay, so we need to launch this business. So initially, it started out as being an affordable housing option for young professionals. But when we went through Start Weekend, we learned that a lot of seniors were empty nesters and wanted to downsize. it's something that can address homelessness. A lot of veterans are also homeless, so there's initiatives to focus on veterans. It could be a vacation home as well. It does, depending on design, it can actually fit a family as well. So it just hits so many individuals. We want to target vacant tracts of land in Jackson and dilapidated housing. So we don't want to pick a place where there's, stable homes there, a stable neighborhood, and do any type of eminent domain. Because that was a concern once before. We want to target vacant tracts of land and dilapidated housing. So initially we wanted to do tiny home communities, but we had a lot of individuals and nonprofits start to reach out to us once we launched. So it's definitely been a process, a learning process, a challenging process, but we just want to offer another option. And we talked before, tiny homes aren't for everyone, but it is an option for some people and a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about that because when I in my investigation of tiny homes, one thing for me, and I'm going to share mine because I think a lot of women that I've been talking to, that's women of a certain age, and like you said, you mentioned empty nesters and things like that. So I want to speak to that first because I think there is an opportunity for us there's some options there for us to create a community of tiny homes where women like myself, we can create this community of tiny home or cottages, a combination of tiny homes or cottages. And then in that community, you can build also a different infrastructure of, a communal space, maybe a park and maybe a meeting place, a courtyard that we could all utilize. And then also we can create this environment of support as a group of women. I want women to think about this as a great idea because I know there's a lot of women would be interested in that. But the other thing for me personally, when I look at this particular, you talked about design with your husband. I think it's an opportunity for I'm looking at a lot of the tiny homes that are very beautiful, that are very simple, that has the needs. Like for me, when I think about what my needs are right now, I want a small kitchen, a medium size or a small living, very small living area that is multi-purpose, maybe be able to use it for office space and a living area in one, a bedroom and a decent sized bathroom. That's my needs. That's my needs. And if it has a washer and dryer, a little compact washer and dryer for myself, because if you're living for one, you shouldn't have that much laundry that you have to do. And I think for us, for women right now, when we're looking at where we're going to be post-COVID, we need to eliminate and simplify. I mean, right now, probably I think for many of us, we got 3 closets and they're all packed to the hilt. We need to downsize. Many of those clothes we're not even wearing every day. So we need to make sure that we downsize. We don't need those types of space. And then the big issue is with many of us that are retirees is the issue of savings. When the economy tanked back in 2008, many retirees lost huge amounts of money and they had to go back to work. They had to go back to work to try to replenish those losses and really prepare to their long-term continued success. So now we're looking at, we need to eliminate costs wherever possible. Maintenance costs, cost of insurance, all of those things that impact that particular housing expenses. So I think tiny homes provide for that demographics like myself, and I want to say to those who are elderly population too, I think it's a wonderful idea. And in addition to millennials who for maybe now for the next 10 years, they're not ready to start a family. More and more young people are now pushing that whole idea of family further and further off. But they still want to live in a housing environment, not an apartment complex or a townhouse. And they want to be able to help create those communities. So this particular idea of tiny homes or other alternative home or housing or living is a way for us to really do some amazing things. And I think we need to come to the table and try to figure out and work with individuals like you and your husband and the Kelly Factory to how do we make this happen? Who do we need to bring to the table to help us move this idea further down the road? So and it relates to tiny homes. Let's talk specifics. What are the pros and cons of tiny homes? Who are its best candidates?
And you mentioned some of them before, but the environmental aspect is a pro of it. The cost, they're more affordable. I know people can be confused about it being more affordable because we see the fancy ones on TV. Unknown caller. And we see the ones that are attached to trailers. But the reality is in Jackson, you can't be on a trailer. It has to be on a traditional foundation. So it is going to be more affordable than those type of tiny homes or a traditional size home. It allows people to have that financial freedom because, like you said, you're not spending much money on maintenance. People are more likely to pay off their tiny homes in 4 to 5 years opposed to being stuck in the 30, 25-year mortgage. So, yeah, so those are some of the benefits. There are cons to it. You know, if you are not prepared to accept the minimalist lifestyle, it's probably not good for you. And I mentioned that before, is that I am a minimalist, but my husband and my daughter, they are not. So I do like a quarterly clean of getting rid of stuff for them, but that's a lifestyle you're going to have to maintain if you're going to be in a tiny home. The second thing is financing. That is the biggest issue because banks usually don't want to lend out money for a small amount. You know, that's something that's going to be like 50 or 60,000 and below. So you're probably going to have to fight, and we had to fight to find a bank to finance the first tiny home we did. Another issue may be spacing for some people. But the one we did, we created a bedroom and then a loft upstairs, but it depends on what kind of lifestyle you have. And you can change up the design. So maybe you don't have much space on the inside, but maybe you have a giant deck. Some people even have roof decks. So there's a way to kind of deal with that. Another thing is because although it is environmentally sound and you can buy different types of appliances to deal with that, if you do consume a lot of stuff and you're not really changing your lifestyle and you're buying a lot of small packages and you're traveling a lot and you're eating out a lot, they kind of cancels out the environmental aspect. It kind of cancels out the saving money part of it. Another thing is that in Jackson, there's not anything saying we can't have tiny homes, but there's not anything that says we can. So you might have some zoning issues. You might have to deal with a variance, which we went through. We went through the process and it was fine, but that's just something you have to consider. Another thing we had to deal with is what's called NIMBYism, which is not in my backyard. The perception was if we put the tiny home on the street we have our tiny home on, that property value was going to go down, that it wasn't going to match the fabric of the neighborhood, that it was going to kind of lead to eminent domain, which wasn't true. So we want to ensure that the design does match the neighborhood. And our first tiny home was on property we own, so it's not, and then we're a private company, so, eminent domain, like that stuff wasn't going to happen. And then the fact that we started out with wanting to target vacant land and dilapidated homes. So those just are, and zoning and financing is one of the biggest issues nationwide, really. So a lot of communities have been working to change the policy to allow them to be accepted, but not only tiny homes, but accessory dwelling units is a type of tiny homes. That's usually when you see people convert their garages into homes or apartments and stuff. So to also kind of accept that, increase that to kind of deal with the housing issues we have.
Now, so if a person wanted to build a community of homes like this, of course we got to look at infrastructure in the city of Jackson, which we have a lot of issue around. How can the city of Jackson support that type of effort? I mean, we know we have crumbling infrastructure right now, and the burden of now, if we decide to start these particular communities on a larger scale, so now we have a little bit more stress on our pipes and our systems and stuff. How can the city of Jackson and we as a community help support that effort?
I mean, I think the city of Jackson is going to have to address infrastructure just in general because it's been something that for a long time was essentially ignored. So that's just in general for all housing and development. The second thing is probably to create policy to allow it to be more acceptable, to ensure that the permitting process is quicker as well, and to kind of have the conversation to educate people on tiny homes, because I think sometimes when we talk to people about tiny homes, they kind of think the worst of things, or they think about what they see TV. So sometimes people can be like, oh, well, tiny homes are really expensive. Why would I get a tiny home when, like a regular home costs this much? So that's just the difference between like what we see on TV and kind of the reality. And probably land, like the city has a lot of land, the state has a lot of land, and that was the purpose of focusing on vacant land and dilapidated land, because the infrastructure was already there. Mm-hmm. Like the pipes are already there underground, so we don't have to worry about recreating something.
Right.
So yeah, just to be just to be supportive of the process and ensure that it is a quick process. Sometimes it does take a while for the city, and that's really just because of lack of resources, lack of personnel, lack of money, and that's just an issue the city just has been dealing with, for the last several years in general. So I don't think it's a situation where they don't want development to happen. It's just that they don't have the capacity.
Well, what price range are we talking about on the cost of building a tiny home? We know everything is going to be different from everybody. And like I talk, right. If there's some fancy little things that you want in it or different designs, that's going to cost whatever. But if you were on the average to build a tiny home, what kind of price range are we looking at?
On average, about $50,000. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what you want in your tiny home, how you want to design it, what kind of materials you want to use, what kind of appliances you want to use. So it really shouldn't cost that much, because there's a lot of things you can get. Like sometimes people want hardwood floors, but then there might be a material that looks just like that.
Right.
Or they might want a certain type of countertop. So yeah, it really should not. It can go up to, they can go up to $60,000, but it really shouldn't be more than that. And it depends on the square footage as well. Like I said, the first one we have probably combined between the base and the loft might have come up to almost 60,000. That's a little over 800 square feet. So that's another thing. We don't do the extreme versions, and you really can't in the city of Jackson anyway. So it's going to be, 500 square feet or 400, something along those lines. It's not going to be extreme, and people will be surprised to know it's very likely the apartments they're staying in might be 500 or so square feet. Mm-hmm. Might not be as big as they thought. So they've probably, even though tiny homes is a trendy term right now, a lot of people already stay in tiny homes or in tiny apartments anyway, or micro apartments.
Yeah. And some of the newer homes that I'm going into that, it looks big outside. When you go inside, the little bedrooms are like a little box. And
right.
And they're paying $250,000, $300,000 a year just for the neighborhood.
Right.
Which you could buy, you could build 3 or 4 homes with that same $300,000 and some $1,000.
Right.
But the other thing is, and I'm throwing out, I'm seeing as I look, there's some things that's like, well, you can buy these homes online, they ship it to you in a box, and you can build it. Are those realistic things that people can look at too? And you mentioned 50,000, but is there some options out there less than 50,000? Because we're seeing this stuff online. Is that something that folks should look at? What should we be concerned about those options?
Yeah, so it does depend on, like I said, it depends on the square footage and the material you would use. So you can definitely find something that you can build that can be cheaper. I'm just not sure with the things you find online if it's legal to have within city limits. You can probably have it in the more rural areas who don't have as many zoning regulations. I will also question the quality, because it might be good for a few years, but I'm not sure if it's going to be like, if you want this place to be a long-term home, I'm not sure if it's going to last as long. And then in addition to that, like, we have to think about the weather we have here, about the storms we have, about the tornadoes we have. Like, is it going to be able to withstand wind that's like more than 30 miles per hour? So, I mean, I think it's cool, particularly maybe if you can put it in the backyard or something. But like I said, I'm not sure if it's even legal to have. So we do come across a lot of those. They have some really cool designs, like Amazon is selling them. I think there's another popular furniture store, like I think they have them as well. So I think it's cool if it's for short term, but I'm not sure about, long term, because we build our tiny homes like you would build a traditional home. It's just a smaller home. Yeah,
and I think for some people too, when we talk about how families are now, even around this COVID, how we're coming together and really habitating together now, because money is tight, people are losing their jobs and things like that. So you may have this big home that has all this property in the back. You say, well, I want to, my contractor said to me, hey, Miss Jones, y'all can, a lot of people can look at, if you got the space involved, you can build out these small homes that are in the back, kind of mother-in-law houses that they call them, or or grandparent houses that are small that you can put in your backyard. And of course, like you said, you have to make sure you have the right zoning and stuff for that, and what's that to happen before you even think about it.
Not only zoning, but sometimes there's, if the planning board or city council require, your neighbors to speak up, you have to make sure your neighbors are okay with it as well.
Yeah.
But you have to take into consideration there's going to be extra traffic, and, like I said, sometimes the perception with some people, they're not comfortable with it.
And that's where you got to be comfortable with your neighbors. You got to be able to trust your neighbors.
Yes, true.
And that's going to be huge, because if you have a good relationship with your neighbors and they trusted you, you've been living there for 20 years or more, and they know that this particular person, Miss Jones or whoever, she always does the right thing. We never have any noise out of her. All those things come into factors that you can't wait to think about it when you get ready to do it. You got to build these types of relationships and address these issues early on. But I think these things, I am extremely excited about this as an option, an opportunity. So where does Kelly Factor move forward? What are the vision right now for the Kelly Factor, and what are you all working on? What are the next steps? How can we as a community and citizens of the city of Jackson support these efforts?
Yeah, so our company is kind of split into two. We have the Kelly Factory for traditional architecture, residential and commercial development, urban planning, and proposal writing, but also we have Tiny Jackson, so specifically for tiny homes. So we want to do our tiny home communities. We want to do tiny homes. We want to find creative ways to finance it and creative incentives, because we see development happen all the time. We see where developers don't have to come up with any money. So we're trying to learn that process so we can do it, not necessarily to retain a profit, but we definitely believe in balance. And like I said before, everyone deserves a good quality of life. They deserve to have the amenities that are in the same, in the popular neighborhoods. So we want to do that. We want to continue to do more commercial work, and we want to eventually get into development, because we want to see the things that we're excited to see in other cities that we visit. So we have a lot of things we want to do. Part of the issue was transitioning from, doing this as a side project to full-time. Now is making the time and learning the process to finance these projects and getting partners and working together. So we're just excited to do not only tiny home development, but all types of development. Like I said, we just want to ensure that Jackson is the best city it can be for everyone.
And also, when you talk about partnerships, too, for those who are listening to us, I want churches, too, I think, would make great partners for this opportunity. I know Cade Chapel has built a senior living facility near their community. I think there's as I go into that particular neighborhood, I think there's more opportunities for that to happen. I would like to see other major congregations to be able to embrace this idea of building tiny home communities for senior citizens. Senior apartments and those kind of spaces are great, but even more, let's look beyond those type of spaces for seniors.
Right.
Let's build a quality of life in an area and environment that's going to empower in much, much bigger ways. And the churches and the congregations there's so many resources, not only their people resources within that congregation, but the power of that particular church around nonprofits and access to revenue could make a great partner for the Kelly Factor and us as a city to be able to bring these type of things to fruition. And also, how do we bring in developers? How do we create developers? Right now, Women for Progress is pushing more women-owned businesses. Individuals like you who have the expertise and the knowledge of grant writing and all those opportunities. How do we women come together to use our talents to be able to pull together the money to do this on our own? We're looking for outside sources, but yes, we have the talent within our own self. We just need to pull together. You might be a great grant writer. You might be working for organizations like HUD. Somebody else may be working for Hope Credit Union. How do we pull all those resources together to make this thing work?
And we have to realize that the more successful cities are better at public-private partnerships. So, like I said, based on my experience with this city, we blame a lot on the city, and it's understandable because we pay taxes to the city, we pay our bills, we pay taxes to the state. But it's really going to take us all working together. Like everybody has a role, like you said, churches, nonprofits, even for-profit businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we used to like to take our daughter to the park in Madison, and I started paying attention to each piece being donated from a business.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to do well, we can't just continue to put pressure on our officials. We see that the city of Jackson has a lot of issues, and money is one of them. It's really going to take a situation where it's everybody working together, because we know that it doesn't just affect one person, it affects everybody. You don't think it affects you, but one day and in some capacity does. So it's just really going to take everybody working together to make Jackson better.
Yeah, and I like that, and we're going to link hands with the Kelly Factory to continue this conversation and dialogue, and even be able to set up some strategic meetings where we can bring together some potential partners to move this conversation further. Yeah. I'm excited about the idea of one day having a tiny home soon, so I'm continuing to do the research and see where we are around that, and the more and more of us do it and make it a mainstream possibility, the more and more that we can do it. And I just love the idea of having tiny homes communities in the city of Jackson to be a model for other places. Right. And so I think there's some real opportunities there. So let's continue the conversation. Let's make sure not only see how those conversations can really turn into actionable projects that we were able to put forth to empower ourselves and our communities. And I love this idea as an opportunity for women around so many, but on so many different levels. Women can, I tell you, when women do stuff and they lead on these particular ideas and projects, I mean, it is just amazing how people pick up on it and they just take the ball and run. And so women, I want you to just, in 2021, as we move forward, is take the baton and lead. And sometimes you don't have to finish the process, but you can lead the effort. You can start the dialogue and then pass that on to someone else who might have the talents and the resources to move it further on down the road. And then another person moves it on further down the road. And next thing you know, we have all of this becomes a reality for us, and it becomes this exciting thing. I want to wrap up our conversation today on this particular conversation on housing is the impact of COVID on family living. Because it's important for us to talk about that. We've talked a bit about affordable housing, about options. This is you all's arena. What are you seeing already, the impact of even COVID on family living here in the city of Jackson?
Yeah, I definitely think it's been a challenging process to go through, because you want to ensure you protect yourselves and your family, so you're not able to meet like you would normally want to. I think the impact is that we're going to look at buildings and designs in a different way. I think outside areas are going to probably be more important. And like you said before, families are desiring to be together. So like you said, maybe a big house and then small tiny homes, or families staying on the compound or a property together, or a community of homes together. So I think that's going to be something that we start looking more into. And you just never knew how important connecting was, and family and friends were, until like a situation like this happened. So I think people are going to start going back to days where they want to stay together, because even if you don't stay together, people were quarantined together, So I think family housing or family housing developments are definitely going to be in the future. And I think less commercial is going to be important, and we're going to probably rely on the internet and digital projects and stuff like that more often. But I definitely think looking at a situation where you can kind of squeeze the whole family in and all the associated amenities is going to be probably what everyone looks for in the future.
And designs of our like you said, our facilities, just like restaurants. I mean, right now we are looking for, we're looking for spaces to come together, the social distance, and one of the top things on the list to check off is, do they have an outdoor patio? Do they have space for us to be outside? Because in our minds we're thinking, yes, we're going to wear our masks, but if we're outside, we're in the air and things are moving and we're not so closed in. We feel much safer to be in that type of environment. So even the idea.
Even office spaces, cubicles were the big thing to kind of save money and space, and that's going to be something that's we're probably not going to really do that anymore, or just have office space in general. But yeah, I think outside is going to be more important with not only housing but commercial spaces as well. It's going to be like more of having a bigger outside space and either providing air or heat over like the inside of the area. Yeah. Because for me, everybody can do what they want. For me, I'm like, I'm not eating inside at all. Yeah. I will consider it if it's outside, so yeah, that's going to be very, very important in the future.
And I think one of the things that technology brings to this, and now that we've become this big online community, is that options are there for us. People are creating so many other alternatives. So in the past, when we have relied on major developers to do all of our building and all of these types of things, now this thing is becoming a lot of DIYs, they say. So and we're learning ways to do it ourselves, and so it's creating these opportunities for us for new businesses, new opportunities, new ways of doing things. So I always say it's been a challenge for us, this impact of COVID to all of our lives. I've lost my husband, so I know how that was a challenge this year, to be able to be in the midst of COVID and be able to have that loss for us and our families. And so many others who have lost. I just recently, somebody shared with me, they lost their entire family to COVID. So I understand what we're going through, but I want people to also every day to understand that there is real opportunities in this moment. There's opportunities that's going to transform our lives. And let's not remember, as the vaccine starts coming online, we need to make sure that we keep this process of thinking differently and make sure that we use this as an opportunity to really empower ourselves, to empower those who have not had empowerment before, to make sure that we declutter our minds, declutter our lives, simplify our lives, make sure that we get back to our spiritual selves, and to love on ourselves and love on our children.
And this exercise gratitude too, because we're still here and we're healthy, a lot of us. So even though it's been a challenging time for us to be alive, it's still going through this, I am very grateful for the family and friends that I do have, because I have lost family as well. I'm just, and it's something we need to do daily. We think about it because it's Thanksgiving coming up, but really just, it's a blessing to be alive every day and be healthy too,
Well, Ashley, you have a 3-year-old, both you and Akili. What do you envision for her? What is the most that you want for her? I mean, you love your child. You want a future. Yeah. What do you envision that future be like for her, look like for her?
So I want her to be well-rounded. Throughout this process, we've been out a lot. So I think we've visited every museum and trail in this region. I want her, she's been painting a lot, and we really love her paintwork, and we've been hanging it up. She's still taking dance class. They're making the proper precautions for it. So I just want her to be a well-rounded individual. And in all honesty, even though it's been a very hard process, because I went from being kind of like a mom in the evenings to weekends to like a 24-hour mom in some cases. But, a lot of people kept telling me, this time goes so fast. It goes so fast. So, you need to, be grateful for it. So now I'm literally having time to spend with her and to actually raise my child, because, a lot of us work a lot, and we are taking care of our children, but we really don't have a hand in really raising them. So I just want her to be the best, well-rounded child, and we have really enjoyed hanging with her and having different experiences with her. I think she's the most hilarious person on earth. So I really have enjoyed this time with her, and I really, the norm has been, we're inside, we're watching TV, whatever, but we really have been trying to find activities to, first of all, wear her out so she can take a nap, but also to opportunities for her to learn as well. So this has really been a good time for her. And like I said, I want her to, she's the only one in our household who's been born and raised in Jackson. So I just want her to experience a good city that has amenities and attractions, something that she doesn't have to leave to go anywhere else for, a good education system. we started the process of filling out the applications from McWillie. And when I went up there, I said, I'm going to be one of those parents, not like a knowing parent, but I want to be a part of the process and making it better for her teacher, and for her school as well. Mm-hmm. So whatever that is, I want to, be hands-on with that. And I know everyone can't do it, but even if you can't do it, maybe your parent can do it, or uncle, or something. Like I said, for us to have a better Jackson is going to be a situation where it's all of us working together.
Well, great. And I want to also give you and your husband, Akili, a pat on the back for staying here in Jackson.
Yeah.
We thank you so much for your talents. We thank you for your resources. We thank you for your vision for the city of Jackson. And when we're in a place where a lot of millennials are leaving Mississippi to go elsewhere, and we don't do any criticism, because we want people to find opportunities wherever you can. But we appreciate those also who stay here and stick it out and make sure that they give back to our city. So we appreciate and support those who leave us, but we are also so very, very grateful for those who stay and build a life here and build a family here, as you and your family, you and your husband has, and build your businesses here. So I want those who are listening to make sure that you support the Kelly Factory. I think you have a website called, is it tinyjxn.com?
Yeah, all of our social media is basically a Kelly Factory and Tiny Jackson. Okay. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Tiny Jackson, and you can visit us at tinyjackson.com or thekellyfactory.com.
Yeah, and I want people also, I have a couple websites, but I don't seem to have it with me, but just Google tiny housing. There's a lot of pros and cons out there on why you should consider tiny housing. I think it's a real option for people, for those, as you stated. I think it's not just even about housing option. It requires a lifestyle change. It requires a behavior change. And if you're not ready to change your behavior, and you're not ready to change your lifestyle, then tiny homes is not going to be for you, because it's a whole mindset thing.
And it's also a conditioning type situation too, because the American dream is a big home. Mm-hmm. So you want to ensure. Sometimes people subscribe to that, say, "Hey, this is my list of accomplishments," and to finish it off is like a really big home. But unfortunately, with the financial situation we're in, from student loans and medical debt, and what COVID is going to do to us, it allows us to have, just another option than to be able to customize your home. Is really cool. Like, people don't really get that opportunity to do.
Right. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Ashley. Yeah. Again, we started our relationship many years ago through Women for Progress. We got to have you back.
Yeah.
And of course, once you become part of Women for Progress, you never really leave. But we love to have more in your engagement, and we look forward to that and so many conversations. And this won't be our only topic around tiny homes. We're going to keep this. We're going to keep this party continued, as they say. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to it. I want to remind everyone again, I started my conversation today regarding the Ward 2 City Council seat that was yesterday, special election yesterday. Miss Angela Lee pulled it out with a big number. She had 1,209 votes. Her another candidate had 950, Mr. Lewis, and they will be in a race on December 8th for the final race for Ward 2, and the citizens of Ward 2 and the voters of Ward 2 will be going back again and making that decision. But I want to remind voters in Ward 2 that when you vote for all of us, because the entire city council will represent all of us here in the city of Jackson. So we want you to make sure that you choose and choose well. I want to remind you again of the important statistics that women make up 53.6% of the Jackson population. So we need more women on that council. We have one woman now. If Miss Lee wins her race, we will have a black woman on the city council. So that brings a whole nother power base there, an empowerment base there. So we want you to look at that option. We at Women for Progress do not tell you how to vote. but we share information that hopefully you will make the right decision, not only for yourself, but for your community, for your state, and for this economy. So Miss Lee has an impressive resume. We want you to go to her Facebook page and check her out. Our own PAC leadership, the Women for Progress PAC that we have now, which is Political Action Committee PAC, our leadership there, the co-directors have just given such great a pat on the backs to Miss Lee. Ms. Teresa Jones, who's the co-director, says that she has paid attention to Angelique over the years and have been very proud to watch her consistently take up the mantle to serve and lead. Say she is a real advocate for people and know that she will bring innovative ideas and strong leadership to the people of Jackson. So she has spoke very highly of her. And Miss Deandra Alexander, who's a co-director, who is doing wonderful things around education here in the city of Jackson, the state of Mississippi, who is an educator herself and a former teacher, and a Jackson native, says that she is excited about the support that Miss Lee has given to public schools and has been an advocate and has endorsed a work around the public school and getting more money for public school education. She served Miss Lee has served in the public school system, and she says, Miss Alexander says that she knows that she will provide a real benefit to teachers and children and families here in the city of Jackson. So those are some highly recommendations from the leadership of the Women for Progress PAC. That is PAC that is engaged in the process of getting more women in public service and supporting more women in public service and supporting leadership that will fight for our causes around women, families, children, and the economy in the state of Mississippi. We also have a Facebook page for the PAC, so you can just Google Women for Progress Political Action PAC or Women for Progress PAC, PAC, and there's a Facebook page that talks about our mission and goals and that kind of thing. And you'll be hearing more about the work that we plan on doing in 2021 around getting more women elected to public service. And we will be supporting men candidates who support our issues and our causes. So really look out for what the work that we're going to be doing moving forward. We got a lot of exciting things on the table for Women for Progress. We want you to stay tuned with us. If you'd like to be part of get connected, be part of our database so you can stay informed, we want you to go to our website at womenforprogress.net, womenforprogress.net, and you can find out how to connect with us there. Give us your name and your cell number, email address. We'll add you to our database. Also, all of our programming around this Women for Progress Radio Network is at womenforprogressradio.com, womenforprogressradio.com. And there you can find a listing of all of our podcasts, all of our radio programming, where dynamic women of this organization from all over are doing wonderful things to educate, inform, and to inspire our public. And on that note, tonight we have the Dear Sister podcast, and it's at 5 o'clock today on the Women for Progress page. Unbelievable team of women there. Miss Teresa Kennedy, who is a principal at 5520 PR and marketing firm, and Miss Attorney Kamisha Munford leads up that podcast. And then tonight they're talking about an exciting topic. It's all about the power and influence of having the sisterhood, sisters and friends, the benefit and why we should have sisters and friends and the power in those particular connections. So they got a great conversation for tonight at 5 o'clock. You want to tune in to our Facebook page, or there's a little button on the womenforprogressradio.com page where you can click and go live also. So tune in tonight at 5 o'clock for that particular podcast and that great leadership team that's gonna host that conversation tonight. Tomorrow night at 5:30, Women for Progress page. Also, our flagship program, Women for Progress Radio. We got a great conversation for you also at 5:30 on the same page. So many great things going on. We want you to support our work. We want, if you're a woman and you want to be part of this organization, there's information on our Facebook page and also on our website on how you can connect with us or reach out to a Women for Progress member. Because I bet you every room that you walk in, there is a Women for Progress member at the table. So make sure that you connect with her also, and she'll connect you to this organization. Thank you so much for tuning with us to the Working Woman Report. Ashley, this has been awesome. And we look forward to more engagement with you. So have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We wish you so much safety for your family and a lot of love and care. So have a wonderful time next week. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, what you get?
Get them trucks.
Really?
Get them trucks.
Okay. Did you tell Clyde which one so he can write them down?
Yes, ma'am. He know one. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of price are we looking at? You think I should offer?
I'm gonna say from like 5,000 and down.
Okay. So not over 5,000, right?
No, I will go. I'm putting it like this: from 5, 6 and down. That's it. That's all I will go with them.
Okay.
That's some good truck.
Okay. And then Clyde said one of them was automatic.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, great. Now, is there some work gonna need to be done on them?
If it is, it's not too much.
Okay. But did you feel like they would also might make some of the repairs to them themselves? Because sound like they had their own mechanic there on site.
Yes, ma'am. They got their own.
So we.
They got their own mechanics on site.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, thank you much. And look,
that's a real good deal.
Good. So, also tell me what I need to pay you for today for going up there, and then also when can you come down and do the service on those trucks? Can you come tomorrow?
No, man. Me and Mr. Clyde had signed that up for Monday morning.
Okay. All right then. All right, that's fine.
He said he don't have, y'all won't have no students Monday.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. He said we signed it up for Monday morning at 9:00.
All right. Well, I'll see you then.
Okay then. Hello.
Yes, I'm still here.
You can just send me $40.
Okay. All right. I'll cash app you.
Okay then.
Thank
I'll
you.
send you a request.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.
All right.